This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And roll call vote, Tom?
Here.
Leslie? Here. Carrie has an absence. Marie? Here. Louise?
Here.
Kathy? Here. Pat has an absence. Crystal? Here. And Cynthia? We'll go ahead and move to the acceptance of minutes for the April meeting, April 15th. Leslie, thank you for doing another thorough job. And are there any corrections or changes to the minutes?
Excuse me, I do not have any changes, but we can't really see your visual. Like I can't see Cindy or Kathy or
Can you see
anyone.
Tom?
Sorry?
You can see Tom, so I guess we don't have the whole.
We're zoomed in.
There we go.
How's that?
Yeah.
For future reference, I hit the reframe button.
Thank you.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of the April 15th meeting.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Marie. All in favor?
I'm gonna abstain because I wasn't here.
No votes? And abstention.
I'm abstaining.
Okay, so we have 2 abstentions, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, minutes pass. And then we'll go on to, we changed the format a little bit, the order of discussions based on some important things that we need to cover first. So with new business, we'll go with cultural chaos table. Cindy?
Yes. So immediately following this meeting, we've been given an extension, a courtesy as a city committee to decide, would we like to have a table at Cultural Chaos? And it's on a weekend and the staff aren't available to staff the table. The table in question is the Commission on Disability table that we would share with them. And so we could, if there were board members who wanted to take shifts or even do part of Cultural Chaos, I need to let Pasqualina know if we can do it and coach a little bit of the table, and we would, bring some handouts and whatnot. If we had had more time to plan, we could have done some sort of giveaway or other item of interest. So the question is, does the board this year want to staff Cultural Chaos table? And if it's too last minute, we could plan it for next year.
Could you remind me of the date?
June 14th, is it?
June, yes, June 14th.
I believe it's 12 to 5.
I could be available at noon for at least a shift, maybe
I
12,
am not available, but
12 to 2 or something like that.
I know Pasqualina, and I'm going to guess that City Space could fill up a lot of the table. I also know Angelique, who's the chair of Disability Committee, and I can check with her.
There's Kathy.
Oh, go ahead.
There's no need to check with anybody. Pasqualina is assigning us half of the disability table. The question is, do we want to have a presence as the Council on Aging there? Secondly, can we manage to staff it? Could be a separate discussion. I can work on those logistics. We just need a decision on, is it something this board wants to do? If so, if I can or can't make it happen logistics wise, and then I can follow up with the board with an email and just say, couldn't get enough people to staff it. Let's try next year. The only thing on the agenda right now is it appropriate and desirable for the board to represent the Council on Aging at Cultural Chaos?
I think it's a positive to have the exposure, especially given you know, the discussions and plans for a new senior center.
Mhm,
I
I
think a
agree.
lot of the general public will have questions that we can basically answer in a very tight framework.
That would be my only concern is do we have the answers to the questions you might get hit with and time to prepare, which we might. It's still a month away,
And the
roughly.
We could do a
Basically,
Q&A thing.
Somebody's going to hit you between the eyes and say, why do we need a new senior center?
Mhm.
We have to
Yep.
have a
We
30
can
second
develop talking points. I think that's a great
talking
idea.
points. Thank
Yes,
you.
exactly.
We need the talking points because that will be the main question that would come up, I would think.
I'd be willing to help out with staffing and
I can help out, but I think the other thing is that it might get us some feedback with the project going forward, even if we can't answer the question.
Right.
You know, it's just always helpful.
Well, one approach could, oh, sorry, Kathy.
Cynthia and then Louise.
One approach could be not offering talking points at this. It's going to be a hard environment to talk in. It could be, you could just put up a sign that says, hearing about a new senior center, have questions, have thoughts, let people give you feedback, you know, rather than you trying to promote certain talking points. It's just another way to look at it.
We could have index cards and they could maybe write down their questions and so forth, and then maybe have some kind of forum later on to answer those. Louise and then Tom.
Personally, I think any talk of a new senior center is useless, given the current federal administration. And I do think that Ashley, I don't know if she's available, but the biggest question that we face is the fact that both Medicare and Social Security are going to cease existing in the next year or two. And what can we do for all the seniors in Easthampton when that predictable thing happens?
Tom.
Almost forgot what I was going to say, but I think either inviting questions or having some bullet point answers, either way, you begin to plant the seed and potentially by now having this space, we potentially reserve it for next year. And next year is when you might actually have a little more meat on the senior center issue. You might have renderings. You might have a location nailed down. You would have had a whole year that the new committee will have been working. So now you have an opportunity to begin. I mean, keep in mind, it was 8 years from beginning to end on the new school. 8 years. I hope it doesn't take that long for a senior center, but it won't happen overnight. And you need to begin to build the case. 2 of the 3 mayoral candidates have already committed to a new senior center. So I think, I don't think it hurts to get the message out early.
Tom, which candidates are those?
Could we hold?
Sorry, we're going to try to stay on this cultural chaos for a minute, because we have such a busy schedule.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I have a proposal, which is one group of board members could work on talking points, submit them to me, and let me take a look at them to make sure they're consistent with like what we're, you know, saying on a department level also. And the second is that I could take Louise's thought. There is a survey statewide of councils on agings in terms of people's concerns or experiences about losing their benefits. And so I'd be happy to make up a display that shows people, you know, contact Ashley or Cindy at the senior center if you have something to say about your mom, your dad, your grandpa, or yourself, and get them that information. And then some talking points from the National Council, nonpartisan talking points about benefits. We can do both. And I'm sure people would be interested in both.
Yeah, I would definitely volunteered to be a part of it in the future. This year is my son's graduation party, but I would love to do it. I've done cultural chaos in the past for like Booster Club for Easthampton cheerleading. We did it like as a fundraiser as well as like to spread the news about what was going on in the community as far as events. So it's really well attended, and I think it would bring a perspective from people that might not be attending daily for programs, but have it on their horizon, you know?
It's a different audience.
Right, agreed.
Great, so it sounds
I also got a comment that cultural chaos I'm very familiar with. And I can guess where the table is going to be because my daughter, Tara, who's in charge of Show Circus Studios right now, will probably provide the stilt walkers who will get a lot of interest this
Okay.
year.
very good. Well, it sounds like we are in favor of hosting a table for this year's cultural chaos. So we'll move on to the Council on Aging Mission and Vision Assessment. And Cindy.
Okay, so let me share my screen and make sure that it works this time. Okay, so we have a guest today who's participating in this discussion. Patricia Boynton is one of the senior center members who is part of a strategic planning team that you may recall that we created, and the board representative on that team is Leslie Button. And then we have several staff members, myself, John Gresham-Moore, and Ian McLaren. We also just recruited somebody who's hopefully the schedule will work out from the Cooley Dickinson VNA and Hospice, who's good with needs assessment type of work. And we're seeking, there are some people who would be ideal to sit on that steering committee, but everybody's so busy, library, community center. But one of the steps of the director and program manager certification for the Council on Aging statewide through Mass Councils on Aging is to do some pieces before you do a strategic plan. And one of the pieces is, let's take a look at the mission statement. So there is a framework for discussing this with the board. And what I want to say about this is, first of all, when you're assessing your mission statement, keep in mind, there's also vision statements. And the thing is, we, as far as I can determine, do not have a vision statement, and it's a piece we could develop. But today we're going to look at the mission statement. Possibly in June, if we have time, we'll look at the vision statement, but we're going to talk about the differences between them. So why do we exist? Why are we doing what we are doing? And what is it exactly we should be providing the senior or older adult resident population and do well? And then, so how would we respond if somebody thinks or we think we're not fulfilling our mission and our collective responsibility to meet our mission as described? And then a mission isn't just something dry that gathers dust. It's that I could open every staff meeting by saying, you know, does this just, you know, what about this discussion harks back to the mission? And that can guide us. Same thing here. Now, here's the thing. It's not clear what our mission statement is. I have collected 3. So the mission statement that I found in our old files is the mission of the Easthampton Senior Center is to identify and meet the needs of Easthampton senior residents by providing programs and activities, information and referral, advocacy and outreach services. But I didn't find that until after I got here. And there was a longer statement on the old website, and we migrated it to the new website. And that was the only thing I could find for a mission, and it was too long, and it was almost too, we do this, we do this, we do this. It wasn't really a mission. So I took that and brought it down to the Council on Aging provides essential programs and activities at the Enrichment Center, including, you know, blah, 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 that enhance the lives of adults 55 plus. It was just, I took 3 sentences and made them into one. But then The mayor's office has a mission statement in the budget book. And that one is the Easthampton Council on Aging provides a range of human services to the community's older residents and caregivers. ECOA's work includes addressing aging, offering social fitness, wellness, and educational activities, and providing transportation advocacy and assistance. Whichever it really is not clear, and I don't know that it's actually in the charter somewhere, and Lindsay couldn't tell me where this came from. So, but let's, oops.
There's another one on the website too.
Well, the one that's on the website is this top one.
It's 2001 to 2021.
Oh, okay.
No, the one that's on the website is the top one. This one here. No, this one, the one from 2001 to 2021 is in our files only. And it almost looks like a certificate, like maybe you remember, Tom, but somebody put it with like scroll work around it, and it was just living in the old digital files. I don't see it posted anywhere at the center. It's not being used by the mayor's office. You know,
But the 2021 is on
The city
the
website.
city website. If you go to the Council on Aging page, you know, where it lists the board members and it lists.
oh, you
what-
mean your advisory board page? Because on our department website page,
Okay.
it's this one that I wrote.
Oh, okay.
So, but aside from which one it is,
Anyway.
they all say something similar, which is, this is what we do. And it's not clear, so what we're supposed to do is evaluate the statements, you know, to make sure it says why we exist. And I asked myself these questions. So why do we exist? To enhance, and taking it right from the mission statements, to enhance the lives of adults 55 plus. But also, is enhance the best word is just a question that I asked, because some of these things are essential, not enhancements. Why are we doing what we're doing? As if the word essential is in there, essential to what? Essential to aging independently, healthfully, safely, and that's where the values start coming in. So you can have a mission statement, a vision statement, which is like those higher goals that you're trying to achieve, like no adults will age totally alone, or whatever your vision is for Easthampton. And then separately, you can have values. How will you do, what is important to you in doing those things, like sovereignty of the older person, or, you know, whatever the values are, those have not been articulated. Okay. So, and then what is it exactly we should be providing our senior population with and doing well? So we list them all in all three of those statements. Should we like list the things that we do? So now let me just take you to the UMass forums that we had last year. This is what they said councils on agings do. So according to the state, it shall be the duty of the Council on Aging staff to carry out the programs designed to meet the needs of seniors, older adults in coordination with, you know, the state programs. So it kind of leaves it, it's like a local option, you know, how are you going to carry out those programs and which ones? But they should be about promoting health and wellness, enhancing community livability, facilitating social engagement, supporting economic security. Like those are the pillars of what we do. So just keeping that in mind. And then let me go back. So to go back to what is a mission statement? Do we think that any of those statements answer the questions? Why do we exist? Why are we doing what we're doing? And what is it exactly we should be providing our senior population and doing that well? Those are the three parts of what a mission statement should be. So let me go back. Why? I don't know why I keep doing that. So if you just look at the one from the budget book, and let me see if I can embiggen that.
It's too long.
That one is 2 sentences. First of all, a mission statement can be 1 sentence. So just going back, why do we exist? Let's look at that first. So do these say why we exist? So just looking at the one that was 2001 to 2021.
Well, I think the word identify is important, to identify the needs of older adults within our community.
Mhm.
And then how we address those needs could be a variety of things like providing services and resources.
So I think Kathy said too long, and it should be something that is like printed on our foreheads that everybody sees when they run into us.
Mhm.
So I'm paraphrasing a bit, but thinking back to my banking days, our mission statement was something like, our mission is to provide the highest quality of financial services with the best trained staff to the communities we serve. We didn't get into, we offer checking accounts, mortgage. You can't get into everything. It's got to be very generalized. Our mission is to, which I like, meet the needs of Easthampton seniors. Not to go on by providing stuff, but by doing something. Meet the needs of Easthampton seniors. How? With another short piece to that. Not by providing exercise stuff and classes and then
Right.
by providing what? I don't know. I can't answer the what.
And we're definitely identifying we are saying who we are serving, the needs of the Easthampton senior. Is that the proper terminology, senior residents, or is it
Older adults?
older adults, I think is.
Older adults is kind of what we're moving
Right.
toward.
It's the state.
So there's the what, so again, the why we exist. So why are we doing what we're doing? Is kind of, to me, that's more the vision statement, but does anybody else have any feedback on that? Like why are we doing what we're doing? Should that go into the mission or the vision, which, like I said, hasn't been articulated and could be anything. It could be like that we, yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to remember, again, it's been 6 years, but I might have this backwards, but one comes from the head, the other comes from the heart. The mission statement, I think, comes from the head. The vision comes from the heart.
Yes.
Okay.
What's behind, what do you feel here in what it is you're doing? That's your vision. Where the mission statement is more heady, like meet the need, blah, 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 meet the needs of Easthampton seniors.
It's what we're doing now.
Right.
Is your mission.
But your vision is more or less more from the heart.
Right. It's a destination.
If I could say something,
Go ahead, Louise.
I would say the mission statement from 2001 to 2021 is probably the closest that we can come to. Vision statement should be, God, to keep people alive and healthy and not end up living on the streets under the current administration. That's about it.
I wonder, could you invite Patty to give some feedback?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Patty, would you like to add something to this?
Yeah, sure. I don't, Tom, I hear what you're saying. I don't quite understand how you can get to by providing without giving a list of things that that the senior center does, unless you do it at a much sort of a higher level. So when I was thinking about this in preparation for the meeting, I just quickly jotted this down. Cindy provided us with mission statements from about 1 million different towns around the area to look at, but supporting the physical, mental, emotional, and creative well-being of Easthampton's 55+ community. So you're talking about there's physical activities, there's mental activities, there's the community piece of it for psychological, but you're not listing necessarily there's exercise programs and crafts. And so, I mean, thinking about it maybe as at a higher level.
Patty, could you say that again more slowly?
Supporting the physical, mental, emotional, and creative well-being of Easthampton's 55+ community.
I think we said the same thing, Patricia, because you just said what I was, it's more global.
Yeah. So at a much higher level rather than drilling down into the details. Yeah.
More global.
I like that a lot.
And I guess the other thing that I don't know that it's, and maybe it's the mental and emotional piece, it's the thing that's missing from all of these, I think, is this idea of like the creation of a community, like to keep people from, like it's the sort of the isolation and loneliness of being an older adult. So community, network, fellowship. I don't know if like there's a way to work those words in. Maybe those are vision words and not mission words. And I guess the other thing just I want to say about mission statements too is like, who's the mission statement for? Is it to drive the work of the senior center? So is it an internal facing document, or is it an external facing document for folks saying, I think I want to come to the senior center, but I don't really know what they do. So I guess that's my question is what do we want it to be?
It has to work for both. So the mission statement has to be pasted to your head at Cultural Chaos, but also something that I can say at every staff meeting if I want to, if we're going to talk about registration procedures or can we do online registrations or whatever it is, it has to come back to the same mission.
And it's the header on your newsletter. It's the sub whatever under your signature on an email. It's on every document that goes out.
Yep.
That touches the public. It's there.
Really identifying what the COA's purpose is.
Exactly. And maybe what Patricia was saying too about whatever she just said.
The vision.
The word I've always heard in dealing with aging parents in my own family was socialization. The key was they eat better, they interact better, they do all this stuff better with other people.
You mean you? They or you?
They.
The older he gets, he can't get away with saying they.
But I'll give you a prime example. When an older person is eating alone, half the sandwich is left. When I sit down and eat with that older person, they eat the sandwich and then they ask for some chips too, because we're talking while we're eating and you don't even realize you're eating. Socialization is a big key. And I think Patricia said something about isolation, and that's the opposite, obviously.
I think I've got something to say, yeah, because the senior center has been fairly useless to me since I moved here in 2017. Thinking about next door, who thinks Ashley is brilliant. That would be my starting point for what we should provide as a vision or mission statement. And that's about all I've got to contribute.
I was just going to add, I think it's going to be a challenge just to have one single succinct sentence for this mission statement. But in addition to what Patty was discussing and Tom on socialization, isolation, I think living independently is a broad way to also bring in that subtopic.
And to Patricia's point and or Cindy's, we might build it to look like this, and then it might split into vision and mission.
Well, it has to. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Cindy.
So we do want to create a vision statement. And one of the things that recently the former Executive Office of Elder Affairs, now AGE, said was something that could apply to everybody, which I'm paraphrasing here. I just put on Facebook yesterday, which was like, so that older adults can live in the community of their choice would be an incredible vision. That is not a reality now, right? Not everybody can afford, not everybody can afford to go into assisted living if they want to go into assisted living, and there's no guarantee that there's a good assisted living nearby for them to go into, or to live independently in an apartment, but have supports, almost like a, assisted living at home model, which is something that's spreading around the country. So if we created a vision statement that was about people's choosing, but also had things in the vision that apply to everyone, like what you're saying about, not alone, with support, and a fellowship that's there for you if you want it, like those are things. And then also those would lead to then the core values we could figure out, because like being independent, if you want to, there's probably like a word that applies to that, that's a value. So, but right now, so if we just for today focus on the mission part, we will come back and talk about the vision, and the vision could relate to those 4 pillars: promoting health and wellness, supporting economic security, facilitating social engagement, enhancing community livability. We can, I'm sure, come up with a vision that applies to those pillars of what councils on aging can do.
Yep.
Through services, leadership, volunteering activities, fitness, so I really like what you're saying about let's get the meat and potatoes out of the mission statement. And that's where they can be listed on a website, listed, in fact, we don't have to give up on that piece in the budget book. It could just be the mission statement, but then underneath it is,
We achieve our
this is
mission
what we
by.
do. Yes, we achieve our mission by.
Those are bullet.
I've got a couple of comments here.
tools that we navigate this whole journey of aging, basically.
My
Louise?
first comment, my first comment is I'm atypical as usual, senior. And since we now have a fascist government, in the US, I am on my way. I mean, I've got an easy out. And I recognize how fortunate I am, because I'm on my way to London, England. And if I can keep my American passport for the next 2 years, then I have 10 years in the UK. And I'm probably settled there.
Alrighty.
So,
Thank you.
can I make a comment? Just one more.
Yeah, sure.
Just wanted to say that I like this idea, the comment that was made about living independently and like that sort of a goal, living, staying in your home and aging in your home. That is a very aspirational goal, I think, of the senior center. I don't think the senior center has, in its current state, has anything in place to do that, but I certainly could see that as a future vision, one of the the goals of the senior center going forward.
Yeah, I think it's a great one.
But could the senior center, Patricia, work towards that goal through a referral process? So we're aware of a senior who, for health reasons, might have to leave their home, but we can put them in touch with the right people that might be able to visit them 3 times a week that allows them to stay home longer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's what Louise was saying. I think we need like a half a dozen more Ashleys at least to get this thing rolling. But I think that in order to do, I think it's definitely a future goal.
Yeah.
Also, it speaks to, it doesn't matter how many Ashleys you have, if all they can do is point to an elder services agency that has limits on how many hours it can give people for the home care, for the PCA, et cetera.
Right.
Referrals do not ensure that somebody can live independently.
Right.
So I just want to make sure people understand that, and that there are incredible funding and labor limits that limit people's ability. So in order for us to get from here where we are at this moment to a new mission statement, because the consensus that I'm hearing is it could use some revision, I would like to bring your suggestions and input back to the strategic planning team, which is going to meet Patty and others, a good representation of people, is going to meet and discuss the thoughts, come up with wording, and then bring it back to you.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
So we're all
all.
set. All right, moving on to old business. I think this is a follow-up from what we started discussing last month regarding the federal funding benefits, and, you know, there's potential cuts, but we haven't really, nothing has been passed yet, to my knowledge. So I think this addresses Louise's concern about Medicare and Social Security.
So what I was going to do today is report on what have we done since our last meeting to address this. And of course, so as a city department, we have to address these matters in a nonpartisan way, and B, according to what the advice that I got from meeting with the mayor a couple months ago, is we want, and actually, if you look at what's being advised out there for what is the best way to support any population, but ours, older adults, is to tell the stories of how people are being impacted. And so what we're trying to do, word of mouth at the center, putting it on Facebook, it's going out in our newsletter coming out next week or at the end of this week, is please share your stories with us, because then we can give them to our legislative delegation, which we know is against the cuts and against the layoffs and the closures of offices and forcing people to drive, far and all of that. And then also, if people are having any trouble with, we've already heard of a senior center where somebody was not going to get their Social Security check. They weren't going to be able to pay their rent. They weren't going to be able to eat or would get their medication. And the senior center was able to turn that around. So with Social Security. So we want to keep putting that message out there. And then we're gathering information and sharing it as soon as we get it. If it's something that the state says, the governor's office or a state department or recommends as good information that is nonpartisan, then we can put that out there. Like, this is how many people would be impacted by these cuts in Massachusetts. This is, the impact of, frankly, one of the cuts is going to be to the SHINE program. Now, Ashley is certified and can give SHINE counseling but we don't know if we can do SHINE counseling without the framework that supports it if the funding is cut from LifePath up in Greenfield. So that would greatly affect things, because you know how many people she served with that kind of advice. So yes, there are impacts already happening. Fuel assistance has been declared to be something that's not going to be, there is no federal component of fuel assistance like as a department, but we don't know yet. We're in touch with Community Action, which manages it. We don't know yet will people get fuel assistance next winter or whenever.
Nope.
Whatever fiscal year this budget reconciliation bill addresses, and that's separate from an executive order or budget proposal from the president. Then there's what Congress does. Then there's how it settles out. And so that's what I can say, is that we are talking about it every day. We're trying to gather information from people and gather their stories. Marie is on top of any letter writing, from the Council on Aging board. But we acknowledge that this situation is happening as a city department or as an advisory board, where, unless the city says we're all walking out onto the street and protesting, like, there isn't something during work time that we would be doing to protest something. We are sharing information and hoping that information can make change. Does anybody have anything else they want to say about this topic?
I do.
Hey, Louise.
Okay. We're a very small city, Easthampton, in Western Massachusetts. And I think we start by recognizing that. Social Security and Medicare have disappeared. So shine counseling is no good. What are we as a board left with to offer anybody over 55 in our community? I mean, they're going to need economic assistance, they're going to need health assistance, they're going to need places to live. That's about all I've got at the moment.
Okay, Tom?
Just to respectfully disagree with Louise. I don't think the sky's falling. I don't think Social Security and Medicare are going to go away. Will there be changes to them? Absolutely. A lot of what the government is trying to do makes sense. How they're doing it does not make sense. Are there people on Medicaid or Medicare? I'll go with Medicaid that shouldn't be on it. I totally believe there are. The problem is their answer to fix that is to cut it, as opposed to using a scalpel, they're using a hatchet. But Social Security is not going to go away. And unfortunately, if it did, there's no way any human services agency in the United States is going to economically support.
Tom, with due respect, that's
true. What are we going to do, Louise? Start paying everybody's mortgage payment? We can't.
no, that's, we can't.
What are we going to do?
What we're going to do maybe is depend on the library to
What?
keep going.
They're not going to make my mortgage payment either. My Social Security goes away, I have a problem.
Yeah, of course
not
you do. Everybody does.
I'm
And
not
there's
going to.
there's nothing we can do about that. We already, Americans have voted for a fascist government. Done deal.
Social Security is not going away.
Yes, it is. Within 2 years.
Okay, Leslie?
So first of all,
I'm done.
I think the bill you're talking about, Louise, has not been voted on yet. So we don't yet know the outcome. Let's be clear about that. They're going
Do you
to.
think Donald Trump cares?
Let me finish.
Leslie has the floor.
Let me finish. Thank you. Yes, it's going to be voted on in some committee at 1 a.m. in the morning, but we don't know what the outcome is. But the other question I would ask to you is the city and government as an entity is one thing. And we as agents of that are doing what we can. And then there's what we do individually, which is a different thing altogether. So I guess my question to you is, what do you think the solution is for us to do? What
I
action?
personally, I would, 2 or 3 outreach workers need to be hired.
But we don't have that money.
Okay, you asked. Let me finish. That are immigration specialists. I mean, I'm sitting easy here. I've already said that. But to get out, I mean, if people are going to flee Easthampton, human beings, they're probably going to go to Canada. Just geographically. And those borders, the Canadians have no tolerance for Donald Trump, and they are going to close up tight because they can't possibly fit half of the United States.
I just want to give a time check. I don't know how much other stuff is on the agenda, but it's 12:46 p.m.
We have a couple more minutes for this, and we have public speak.
I just have one thing to add.
Okay. Marie.
Sorry. And just, in terms of what the board can do, and in terms of legislative advocacy, I contacted Representative Gomez about the following programs, to provide funding, and it has to do with elder home care, nutrition services, prescription advantage programs, and behavioral health outreach for aging. So that's something very small, but it's just one section. that we can actually do something concrete for.
You mean state provided
State,
services?
Gomez,
Yeah.
yeah. And then in terms of opposing like a 20% cut to SNAP benefits on a federal level, Senators Warren and Markey were contacted, as well as Representative Richard Neal. So, I mean, I think we really have to pare things down to as specific as possible.
Mhm.
And I think many people besides just yourself can contact our legislators, and we have done that in the past. And I think that to continue letting them know what our voice and concerns are is really important.
Yeah, and just to remind everybody to bring it back, statistics and answers to, you know, how cuts will impact on the macro level are less important right now. Everybody knows what those are, than the stories of how is that going to affect my niece? How is that going to affect my father? How is that going to affect? So really, I mean, talk, you know, how is it going to, like you said, how is it going to affect you? Because many people rely on those benefits. And also you can talk to farmers, you know, you can talk to grocery stores, you can talk to other components of the community for whom SNAP is an economic driver.
I would add,
I want to respect that we have to move on our agenda.
Tom, did you have a last word?
I think I did.
We have a couple minutes here.
I think I just,
Tom's got the floor right now.
Something Cindy said earlier about we don't know a lot of what's going to happen. Part of this is going to force us to be reactive more than proactive. Compare it to the whole issue with tariffs. They're on one day, they're off the next day. Businesses aren't sure what to do. They're not sure how to react. We all heard the story. The one thing markets hate is uncertainty. We're dealing with uncertainty at all levels, including ours. So unfortunately, part of what this procedure, if you will, part of what the government's doing is forcing us to be reactive rather than proactive. We don't know what to be proactive about because we don't know. You're shooting darts at a dartboard and it's missing the board. You have to wait and see what happens.
And in part that leaves the Council on Aging Center to really continue with their mission and provide the programs and services that will help seniors in other ways until we really know what's going on.
Exactly.
You're absolutely right, Tom.
I think if we're going to provide for nutritional needs, which is a big one, that the senior center should align itself with Robin at the community center, who is a miracle worker and is already in touch with sources of food.
Good.
Thank you. All righty. Thank you for the discussion, everyone. And we'll move on to public speak if there's anyone that I don't hear or see anybody for public speak. I think that's all we have.
So,
You want to mention anything about July or?
yeah,
We will be meeting in June again also.
right. So we're going to be meeting in June and we have, just to let you know that one of the things we're going to talk about in June are the Council on Aging policies and procedures. And those are now pretty much done, reviewed by legal, reviewed by City Hall. And so now it's for the board to review them. And if something jumps out at you that's like, what? You can let me know. It's not that you have to approve them, but it has been really nice in the past to, say, presented to and approved by the COA advisory board on such and such date. So I will be sending those to you and it's long, but please read them. And they are in line with other centers.
Do we have any lead time? Not to put any extra pressure on it, but will we have some lead time before the June meeting?
Oh, yes, I'm going to send those out as soon as there's just like one final formatting thing to do on the header. I won't worry about that. I'll send it to you as is. And then
Cindy, when is the June meeting?
the third Tuesday in June.
17th of June. For the agenda.
Right. And then we'll also be bringing back to you, hopefully a revised mission statement for you to, touch on, and then there's some other topics, and then the July meeting, which is super important for everybody to come to, both from the strategic planning team and the COA board, talk it up amongst other residents and community members, is where we'll do that strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. And I think we all know what a big, we can easily come up with all kinds of threats, but hopefully we can come up with some opportunities. So so thank you. And I will make sure to give you in advance of that July meeting, basically sort of our basic instructions, like what are we shooting for with the quote SWOT? What are we trying to do?
Cindy, what date exactly is the July meeting?
The July meeting is the third,
July 15th.
third Tuesday in July.
So we have June 17th and then July 15th.
And the 17th starts at noon, and the July one starts at 11:30, and it's upstairs.
We have lunch before.
And we're having lunch before for people who want to come at 11. You just let me know if you want to be included in the lunch.
Tom?
Just another topic, seeing we might be under other stuff. Have you heard anything from the mayor yet about interest in the building committee?
Yes, so the building committee application period was extended by 10 days. Just to, continue evaluating and recruiting, and then the decisions are going to be made by June 15th.
Okay, good.
Is Google Meet? I'll be in London on the 17th of June. Does our technology provide for me to be able to attend this meeting from there?
That just depends on what you have for connectivity.
I would think you could. You're just going to be 5 or 6 hours either ahead or behind us. I would forget which way it is.
We're ahead of us.
Yeah, I'll definitely have my laptop with me.
All right, so do you want to close the meeting?
All right, well, take a motion to,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
very second. All in favor of adjourning, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.